The other thing I really want to talk about is this house.
Yes.
This was something we initially started talking about.
I've been waiting for this moment, Graham.
And we made this bet. And you said it would take you 18 months from the time of construction until you spent the first night at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it would take more than 18 months. How long did it actually take?
You know, it's very funny because did we make a bet on that?
We did.
Was it $1,000?
It was $1,000.
Are we adjusting for inflation?
We should,
because it's been a long time.
Yeah. Now with inflation, that would have been like $3,000.
Yeah. So here's what's so funny about that. It is within days of 18 months.
Is it?
I'm dead serious. And I know that my construction loan had an 18-month term. I made it by like a week.
Did you actually?
Graham thought he was going to be raking it in today.
I am almost certain it's like 17 months and like 20 days. But before any money is sent my way,
Yeah.
I really need to look at the dates.
Okay.
Because I think the term, I know the term of the construction loan was 18 months, so it had to have been less. I was actually really, really nervous that I wasn't going to make the deadline. And if I wouldn't have made the deadline, supposedly they could have foreclosed on the house. I don't know if it ever would have gotten to that.
They wouldn't.
I don't think they would have,
they
but
wouldn't.
I guess they could have. I could have been in a sticky situation where if like the construction loan company was, I don't know.
Foreclosure process takes such a long
Well, I know.
time.
And that's why, because I'd never owned a house or built a house before, I didn't know how serious it was. I just knew I didn't want to deal with it. And we beat it because I think October 1st was the date, and I think I moved in like September 20th, give or take. I think I did it. I'm pretty sure.
Let's take a look. How much did that cost you?
The
How
whole
much
house?
Are you? How much are you on the
man.
house?
It's crazy. So I built my house. I'm nearly certain at about the worst moment in time in probably the last, 10, 20, 30
More
years,
than
maybe?
that. Probably 50
Probably
years.
50 years. Yeah. I mean, like, and when I say the worst time, like the start date was about the worst time and the finish date was about the worst time. Like if I would have finished it 6 months later, if I would have started it 6 months later and finished 6 months later, it probably would have been better on both ends. Interest rates ate me alive. I made a mistake in which I got a construction loan and then turned that into a normal mortgage. I should have gotten one loan that was both, if that makes sense. I'm not like the smartest guy when it comes to these things, but the interest rate when I started construction was like 2.99%. And I ended up locking in at like 5.5%, which is better than it could have been.
Right.
I guess it could have been 7-8%. So that hit me pretty hard, but the cost of lumber went absolutely crazy. The cost of steel went crazy. Concrete went crazy. I was approximately $1 million over budget on this house. So the original budget was around $2 million. And by the time we finished, it was $3 million. But the caveat is that it was $1 million over, but the original budget included the house finished. And at $3 million, the house still wasn't finished, but I was able to move in. So when it's all said and done, I'll probably be closer to $1.5 million over budget. Because, the house as it stands now, the basement, the underground garage is completely unfinished. A lot of the main house, like you saw in the kitchen, there's a couple things missing here and there. There's some holes in the drywall that need to be patched. There's no accent walls or ceilings of any kind. So there's still a lot to do in the house. But I'm like, I don't want to come across as a complainer because I am so incredibly grateful that I'm able to afford this house. I'm also very, very grateful that I was able to cover that $1 million by filming YouTube content. I was able to leverage the construction of the house into YouTube videos, all the rough things that happened that was truly bad timing, like COVID with prices. Like I acknowledged that on my videos and people thought that was really interesting. And that allowed me to create more content on the house that helped me pay and offset that $1 million over.
Now, this is interesting because you talked about it, and I've had the same experience of people seeing you. They see the cars, they could look you up online, and they charge you more because they just say,
absolutely, yep,
he could afford it. So
Yep.
I'm going to inflate my prices 20%. How do you deal with that? Or do you combat that? Do you shop around more?
Right.
What's been your experience?
Well, thankfully, my two general contractors, brothers, High Country Homes, shout out to them. They did an awesome job managing the project for me. So they really good dudes. Their cousin is a buddy of mine. they're just like genuine dudes with good work ethic and a lot of integrity. And I really trusted them. And they helped me navigate that a lot because, they're older guys that I think did the project more out of passion, more so than money. Obviously, they still got paid, but they did a great job, with their subcontractors, whatnot, keeping that in line. What was really interesting though is, after I moved into the house still needed a lot of work, landscaping, the fence, the garage floors, there's all sorts of things that have been done since they kind of walked away from the project. And that was when I really realized the value of what they provided. Because now, when I'm working with all these other contractors to get other stuff done, I mean, some of the quotes that I'm getting are absolutely out of control. I mean, just like, it's just laughable, some of the things that these people send me. One of the things that I've done is I've tried to do as much work myself that I can, like landscaping, like paying a landscaper to do a bunch of stuff. No, I'll just mow the lawn. I'll do the weeds myself. I'm not going to pay somebody, $1,000, $2,000 every 2 weeks to weed my yard, right? That's ridiculous. I'll do it myself. So that's one of the ways I've combated it. And the other way is just getting multiple quotes. Like that's the only way to do it. The hard part that I've run into is like when I take a car to a car dealership and something's broken, I know what it should cost because I'm an expert in that field. I've loved cars for 20, 30 years, right? Like I know the industry. But when it comes to houses, I don't know anything. Like I've never owned a house before this place. So when it comes to building costs or, the cost of installing a sprinkler system or landscaping or epoxy on garage floors, like you just don't have that knowledge, right? And so a lot of it has just been getting multiple quotes, and that's been really hard because I hate getting ripped off.
Yeah, we had Jason Oppenheim on the podcast, and he completely changed my perspective on getting ripped off. He called it almost like an extra tax that he has to pay for the convenience of getting it done. And he doesn't look at it as getting ripped off anymore, because I would be the same way. I would get a quote for someone to replace a valve in the toilet that was leaking.
Right.
And on my duplex, it was in a really, seedy part of town. It was not very up and coming, not the best area. And they'd come and they'd give me a price on that. And then when I moved, the new price in a nicer area all of a sudden seemed to triple.
Right.
And it's a 20-minute drive between the places. The work didn't triple. The cost is the exact same. It's the same toilet.
Of course.
So why did it triple? Well, the area. That's it. They priced the area.
Yep.
And so Jason made the argument that, well, yeah, you can spend your time negotiating, going back and forth. Is it a good use of your time? Is that going to stress you out? If so, just pay the cost, and that is your tax.
For sure. 100%. I mean, opportunity cost, we all learned about that at some point in economics, right? Like it is a real thing. And of course, you have to factor that in at some point. Yeah. And then there are other times where you're just like, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do this myself and not get ripped off. And then you quickly realize like, wow, I could have filmed a YouTube video and made way more money doing this and just paid. Yeah. And you're right. The hardest part about, especially the contracting world is getting something done. Getting contractors to come to your house on the day that they say they're going to come to your house and doing the job right the first time. It's like, if you can find the contractor that can do that, pay him, right? Like he deserves that because he's so much better than the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
And so there's a handful of things around the house that you guys saw earlier that I didn't catch because I was out of town. And by the time I got home, it was done. And I'm a little bit of a yes man as well. I like to please people on some level. I hate confrontation, especially when you have a YouTube channel where people know you. The last thing I want to do is like have a confrontation with a contractor who then tells his buddy who's a fan of the channel and that ruins my reputation. So you also run into this issue where you want everybody to like you all the time, which is really tough.
Yeah, you have to be on site daily. And that's something that I learned very early on when I was remodeling the duplex, that I would show up every single day. And sometimes they were supposed to get there at like 8 or 9 a.m. and I'd show up at 10. No one is there.
Oh, don't.
And I call, what happened?
Constantly.
Oh, yeah, they're fixing a little thing over here. Don't worry, they'll be there. What time are they going to be there? They'll be there at noon. All right. And then if I say, okay, that's fine, I'm leaving, they'll not show up.
Of course.
But if I say, okay, I'm going to wait.
You have to babysit.
All of a sudden, and they're back there at noon.
Yep. Well, the hard part that I run into now that I'm living in the house is if I have a contractor coming on a Tuesday, I'm going to film on Monday and Wednesday, let's say. If that contractor doesn't show up on Tuesday and then they show up on Wednesday, it ruins my ability to do my job on Wednesday because, if a contractor's here and let's say, whatever. They're making a ton of noise. They're doing something that allows me to not be able to film what I need to. The fact that they didn't show up, it hurts in more ways than one. And so that's why with the house now, it's like, I almost don't even want to finish it because it's such a headache to get contractors to come finish it. It just affects my workflow so awful.
Yeah. Do you regret making the house so public?
No. One thing with my YouTube channel, especially when I first started early on, I felt like one of my competitive advantages, if you will, how I was going to separate myself from everybody was by telling the true story, like telling everybody everything. And I think on that Lamborghini Age at 26 video, that's what it was. Like people had never seen anybody so real, because you hear a lot of people that make similar videos and they're like, oh, I own 17 businesses and I invested in this and that and this and that, but they're not telling you actually real things that actually happened, right? And so ever since that success on that video, I've wanted to be very open and honest with people. And just the nature of how I film and my style is such. Like I film everything. I film my day-to-day life, what I do. Like it's a very interactive style of content where people really know everything about me. And filming at my house is integral in that. And there's really not a way to film that style without just sharing everything.
Yeah. On that subject, you're also very public lately with your relationship.
Yes.
What was that conversation like of throwing someone else into the mix so publicly?
For sure. Well, Sophia and I dated for quite a while before anything was made public. So I think that's always integral, right? It's such an impossible thing to navigate though, because you're really throwing somebody into this world that they didn't grow into. Because I grew into it, right? Like I started off with 1 subscriber and then I grew to 100 and then 1,000 and the first person recognized me and then 100,000 and 3 people see you at a car show and then all of a sudden you hit 1 million, 2 million, 3 million and everywhere you go people recognize you. And then Sophia she's just thrown into that mix immediately. She's in one video where I introduce her and 1 million people see it the first video. But she has handled it so incredibly well. I mean, she helped me pull a motor out of a V12 Ferrari. Like think about that. Like that is an amazing girl. Like that's amazing. I mean, she helps in so many ways. She's down for whatever. She loves and supports me in the YouTube thing. She comes on the trips with me. There's times off camera that I'm down and out or whatever. I'm not feeling good. A video did bad or I don't know, whatever it is, a comment gets to me and she has a way of building me up and supporting me. And hopefully on the flip side, she's had to deal with some, comments are nasty, especially when you're just thrown into it so aggressively and so quickly, but she's handled it so well.
What do you think is a valid criticism of yourself? Because in the public eye, you're like the happiest, the nicest guy. You know what I mean? Like the most personable and likable person. But what would you say is like a valid criticism of yourself?
It's so funny because there are so many things to be critical of me right now, but as soon as you put on the spot, you almost need like a little bit to think about it. But a valid criticism, I think I could be more grateful for what I have off camera. I think it's very, very, very easy to become so normalized to what you have and to always want like better and better and better and to not be as grateful as you should. And there are moments, and it's one of those things where there's a lot of moments that I'm very grateful, but there are some moments that I'm not, where I lose maybe touch with reality. Like I get so caught in my own world, right? And my own problems. And then sometimes you need to take that outward perspective on what you have. But every human is guilty on some level of living in their own world, right? Like the world revolves around me. Like I literally live in this body. Like, of course it revolves around me, just like it does for you, Jack. And, but I think that definitely being more grateful. I think, years and years and years ago, I was more grateful in a way. And I think just the human nature of it all, you get more accustomed to what you have. Like just like that first ride in the Koenigsegg versus driving it today, it's just not the same. I'm driving the Koenigsegg around and, maybe somebody cuts you off and you get mad, right? But the first time I rode in the car, like I wouldn't have the ability to be mad. I'd just be so happy to be in the car.
The thing is, if that didn't exist, we would never progress as people.
Right,
we
right.
only
of course,
compare
of course.
across and up.
right?
But
And
I
we
think
do that on
gratitude is
purpose.
something that's completely different. Like that's detached from that equation. You can always want more, meanwhile still being grateful of the things that you have.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it takes active thought to be grateful. I feel like. I feel like unless you think of it, it's hard to feel
There's
grateful.
truth to that. Yeah. I agree.
Until you take a step back and like really frame your mind. I think it comes more natural to be, where does everyone else at this level, where are they at? How do I stack to them? And then
Right.
what's ahead that I could work towards?
But at some point, you have to be content with who you are and where you are at in life, right? Otherwise, you're always searching and always chasing something.